Staff entrance is on the side, the woman said, without looking up from her clipboard. Amara blinked once. No introduction, no greeting, just assumption delivered like policy. She was halfway up the front steps of the Lakemont Hills estate and already being redirected like she didn't belong. "I'm not staff," Amara said evenly. Now the woman looked up. Slim, pressed, polished, white, mid-40s, sunglasses perched like a crown. She gave Amara a slow once-over, expression flat. "Delivery then? Catering? If you're with housekeeping, you're early." Amara stood her ground. "I'm here for the 10 a.m. showing." That got a reaction. A twitch in the eyebrow, a pause that said really. "This is a private listing," the woman said. "Invitation only. What's your name?" "Amara Sinclair." She glanced down at the clipboard. "Not seeing you." "It was booked through Wexler and Grant, investment portfolio rep." Another pause. This one longer, heavier. A second woman, clearly a client, stood a few feet away, sipping something iced and openly watching the exchange. "You're here, alone?" the agent asked. "Yes." "No agent?" "No." "You're with Wexler, but no one mentioned that to me." "No rep, no confirmation, and—" She looked her up and down again, slower this time. "You'll forgive me, but this doesn't exactly look like $1 million walkthrough." There was no anger in Amara's face, only stillness. "Are you denying me entry?" "I'm asking you to respect the process," the woman said. "There are real buyers arriving. I have a full schedule today, and frankly, I don't have time for social media stunts or walk-through tourists." Amara tilted her head slightly. "You assume I don't belong because of how I look." "I don't assume," she snapped. "I follow names, protocol, and professionalism. You show up without notice, dressed like a housekeeper, and expect me to roll out a red carpet? I don't think so." A new car pulled into the driveway behind Amara, luxury SUV, dark glass, eager client behind the wheel. The agent waved him over. "Go ahead and wait by the door, Mr. Reiner." "I'll be right with you." Then, turning back to Amara, "Now I've asked nicely. Please leave before this gets awkward." Amara didn't move. Her voice stayed calm. "And what's your name?" The agent narrowed her eyes. "Clarice Dalton, senior rep. And trust me, I know this business better than anyone in the city." "Good," Amara said. "Then I'll make sure you're present at the closing." Clarice laughed, one sharp burst. "What closing?" Amara smiled, softly, like someone memorizing a moment. "You'll see." And she turned and walked back toward her car. Clarice shook her head and muttered something to the client. The woman with the iced drink leaned toward her. "Who was that?" she whispered. "No one," Clarice replied. "Just someone who got lost on her way to the service entrance." Inside the car, Amara took a slow breath. She wasn't angry. She was clear. Her phone buzzed. "Jalen, 10:04 a.m. Just spoke to their lawyer. They'll take full asking if we move fast." "Want it?" Amara stared at the house. Amara, 10:05 a.m. Offer 15% over, full cash, but only if Dalton closes it herself. She set the phone down. Not revenge, just memory, leveraged. The city buzzed beneath her office window, but inside the sleek glass walls of Sinclair Equity, everything was still. Amara stood barefoot, blazer off, sleeves rolled. Her assistant Jalen sat at the opposite end of the long conference table, tapping furiously on his tablet, half fuming. "We should sue them," he said for the third time that morning. "Hell, we should buy their entire agency and turn it into a parking lot." Amara poured herself coffee. "That would be emotional. I prefer structural." Jalen looked up. "You were humiliated, Amara, in public. That woman treated you like you were invisible." "She didn't treat me like I was invisible," Amara corrected. "She treated me like I was beneath seeing." Jalen didn't respond right away. He just sat back, blinking, and let the weight of that land. Amara took a slow sip. Besides, she gave me more than insult. She gave me leverage. She turned her laptop toward him. On screen was the original seller's portfolio. Financial strain, multiple properties, a family trust in quiet distress. It was all there. The need to liquidate quickly, quietly, and without headlines. They had approached Sinclair Equity through intermediaries. They didn't care who the buyer was, as long as it was fast, clean, and full price. She thought I was just walking up to dream, Amara said. But I was already halfway through escrow. Jalen leaned forward. So what's the plan? We buy it, close it, and make sure Clarice signs the final page herself. You want her at the table? I want her in the moment. I want her to sit across from the woman she tried to erase and feel what truth looks like in silence. Jalen grinned. That's cold. Amara met his gaze. No. That's clarity. Across the city, the Dalton agency prepared for what they believed would be a career-defining deal. The buyer was listed only by entity name, AS Holdings, Private Capital Group, liquid, no lender, all conditions pre-cleared. Clarice had been personally requested for closing. She told everyone, proudly, that it was her charm that had sealed the deal. They loved my presentation, she said to her colleagues, wanted someone with polish, discretion. No one questioned her. The day before closing, Amara reviewed the updated contracts, confirming every detail. She had no interest in dragging the moment out or humiliating anyone. She wanted precision and finality. The papers were correct. The funds were wired. The room was booked. That night, she sat alone on the rooftop of her building, watching the skyline flicker like breathing fire. The wind pulled gently at the collar of her coat. She wasn't angry. She was focused. She remembered her first job, cleaning condos after night shifts. No keys, no titles, no names on leases, just silence, gloves, and the constant awareness of being seen without being acknowledged. Now, they couldn't afford to overlook her, because she was the one writing the checks. The next morning, Clarice walked into the boardroom with perfect posture and a beaming smile, unaware that the balance of power had shifted entirely. She greeted the notary, offered her card to the assistant, and took her seat at the head of the table. She pulled out her Mont Blanc pen and said, "Ready when you are." The door opened behind her. Amara stepped in, dressed in sharp navy, her walk unhurried, her gaze direct. Clarice turned slowly, confused for a split second. Then color drained from her face. Amara didn't break eye contact. "I believe you have paperwork for me to sign." Clarice opened her mouth, closed it, looked to the assistant, then back at Amara. You're the buyer," Amara finished. "Yes." No one spoke. Not the assistant. Not the notary. Not the junior rep seated by the window, who had clearly seen the airport-style clipboards before, and now realized this wasn't just a luxury buyer. This was someone important. Clarice stumbled through her papers. Her fingers trembled as she passed the folder across the table. Amara sat down slowly, placed the folder in front of her, and flipped it open. Then she paused. Without raising her voice, without breaking the stillness of the room, she said, "When you told me to use the side entrance, did you ever imagine we'd end up here?" Clarice said nothing. "Of course not," Amara said. "Because the people you ignore are never supposed to win. Not in your world." She signed the first page, then the second, then passed the file back. "I'm not here to punish you, Ms. Dalton. I'm here to finish what I started, despite you." Clarice's voice was barely audible. "Why didn't you say anything? That day?" Amara met her eyes. "Because if I had to explain who I was to you, then I already wasn't who I needed to be." She stood. Clarice reached for the file with unsteady hands. Amara turned to the assistant. "Send a copy to my legal team. I'll expect the keys by noon." And then she walked out, quiet, composed, and entirely unforgettable. The photo leaked before noon. Just one frame. Clarice Dalton frozen mid-blink, seated across from a woman whose name she hadn't bothered to remember. Amara wasn't looking at the camera. She was signing a document, head slightly tilted, posture composed. But the image told a louder story. Within hours, it was everywhere. Real estate agent mistakes buyer for maid, gets humbled at closing table. Headlines, hashtags, reactions, no quotes, no interviews, just a moment of power shifting in silence. Amara hadn't planned on going public. Her legal team hadn't released anything. But someone in the room, likely a junior rep, had snapped the photo and passed it along, and now it had grown legs. She found out like everyone else, her phone vibrating nonstop as messages poured in from across industries, cities, even countries. Some people cheered, some apologized. Others asked her to speak. Conferences, panels, podcasts, diversity luncheons. She declined them all. This was never about making noise. It was about restoring something that had been taken in 5 seconds on the front steps of a house she now owned. At the agency, the fallout began to take shape. Clients canceled appointments. A developer quietly pulled a listing. The Dalton Group issued a bland statement calling it a moment of misjudgment and a misunderstanding rooted in logistical confusion. Clarice was placed on leave, though no one said whether it was temporary or terminal. Inside her own walls, Amara watched the response unfold with practiced stillness. She had known public attention before, Forbes profiles, investment spotlights, but this was different. This wasn't admiration. It was recognition. Forced, perhaps, but undeniable. Jalen stormed into her office with his tablet raised. "You've got to read this." He dropped into the chair across from her, scrolling. "Someone just wrote an op-ed calling you the quiet thunder of accountability. I'm stealing that." Amara smirked. "Sounds a little dramatic." "Dramatic gets reposted." He turned the screen toward her. Tweets, threads, stitched videos of people narrating her story like it was a parable, each one more embellished than the last. "They're turning it into a myth," she said, "because they need it to be one. People don't believe power can look like this. Quiet, patient, controlled." Amara stood, walked to the window. The skyline shimmered in the afternoon haze. "This will pass," she said. "They'll move on." "Maybe," Jalen said, "but she won't." He meant Clarice. Amara turned slowly. "She's irrelevant now." That's exactly what makes it hurt. Outside, a delivery truck pulled into the circular drive of her new property. The final pieces of custom furniture were arriving. The home was nearly ready. Not just for living, for hosting, for being seen. But she didn't want an open house. She wanted something quieter, smaller. She emailed the local Black Women in Real Estate Alliance and invited 10 members to a private walkthrough. No press, no posting, just presence. When they arrived the next day, she greeted them at the door herself. One woman stood on the same step where Amara had once been turned away and asked, "Is this where it happened?" Amara nodded. "Right here." They walked through the house slowly, room by room. No flash, no sales pitch, just reclaimed space. She offered wine in the garden and spoke little, letting the house speak instead. By dusk, the women began to leave, each one pausing at the door to thank her, not just for the invitation, but for the reminder. "You didn't have to buy the house," one said. "You could have sued, protested, made a video, but you walked back in and sat down across from her." Amara looked at her. "Because nothing unsettles power like being corrected without being screamed at." The woman nodded. "You didn't raise your voice." "I didn't need to." Later that night, Amara stood in the hallway near the staircase, touching the banister absent-mindedly. The same wood that had once been polished by hands like hers. Hands the world never thought would own anything beyond a broom. And now here she was. Not because she shouted, not because she demanded, but because she waited, measured, struck when the moment was hers. In her bedroom upstairs, she closed the blinds against the city glow and sat at her desk. No headlines open, no interviews scheduled, just a blank page and a pen. And a sentence she wrote without hesitation. I didn't buy the house to make a point. I bought it because someone once told me I couldn't. She underlined it once, folded the paper, and filed it under legacy. You've started something we can't control, said the woman across the table. Amara didn't flinch. She stirred her coffee once, slowly, and waited. Across from her sat Simone Farrell, regional director of the Real Estate Ethics Commission, a polished woman in a navy blazer who usually spoke in practiced neutrality. Today, her voice held weight. This incident has turned into a benchmark, Simone continued. Agencies are rewriting protocols. Boardrooms are calling emergency sessions. We're fielding calls from legal teams wanting to know how to avoid becoming the next Dalton Group. Amara looked up. Then maybe it's working. Simone blinked. You really don't want to make a statement? No. Not even for education. Or closure? Amara sipped her coffee. You don't need a speech from me. You need policy. Outside the cafe, camera crews still lingered down the block, hoping for a glimpse. Ever since the story went viral, Amara had become a symbol no one could seem to capture directly. She refused interviews, skipped panels, and ignored invitations to share her truth. She wasn't interested in being anyone's inspiration. She wanted consequence. Back at the Dalton office, consequence had arrived. The agency's board had dissolved Clarice's contract. The CEO issued a formal apology, not on letterhead, but on video, unedited, voice shaking. Other agencies scrambled to review their intake processes, undergoing audits and bias training almost overnight. One brokerage even sent flowers to Amara's office. She sent them back. Jalen burst into her workspace mid-afternoon with another article in hand. They're calling it the Sinclair Standard. Amara raised an eyebrow. Sounds like a jazz quartet. He grinned. No, seriously. Industry analysts are saying your silence is reshaping power dynamics. Buyers are asking questions. Brokers are nervous. Everyone wants to know what you'll do next. She turned her chair toward the window. They're asking the wrong question. Jalen leaned on the frame. Which is? What they'll do next. What changes when they stop assuming wealth comes with whiteness? When they stop talking about diversity and start adjusting their floor plans to accommodate it? He was quiet. In the following days, Amara launched an anonymous grant fund under the name The Entry Initiative. No press release. No brand. Just quiet capital, directed toward first-generation buyers from marginalized communities who had been turned away, undervalued, or ignored. She funded the first 10 purchases herself. None of the recipients knew it came from her. Meanwhile, a junior broker who had once worked under Clarice went viral for her own thread. I watched my boss turn away a woman who could have bought the whole block. I stayed silent. I won't again. It gained traction fast. News anchors dissected Amara's strategy. Influencers made videos mimicking her walk into the boardroom. A law firm used her image in a case study. People kept asking, what was her message? But Amara had never delivered one. She simply acted. At the end of that week, she received an invitation to keynote the National Real Estate Inclusion Summit. All expenses paid, honorarium in 5 digits. Her face on the flyer. She replied with a 2-sentence email. Thank you for the invitation. I've said everything I needed to by owning the deed. No follow-up came. Later, alone in the study of her new home, she reviewed blueprints for her next acquisition. Not a house, but a block. A historic strip of buildings once redlined out of value, now open for investment. She planned to restore them, not flip them, not sell them, preserve them. Because ownership wasn't just about space, it was about story. And she was no longer interested in renting her narrative out to people who didn't know how to hold it. You own the building? The woman asked, stunned, halfway through her complaint at the front desk. Amara didn't look up from the clipboard. Yes. Is there a problem? The woman blinked. She had marched in with the full intention of scolding someone. Something about valet service, lack of signage, the confusing new staff protocols. But now her posture changed. Her tone softened. No, no, she said quickly. Just wasn't aware. I'll be on my way. Amara nodded once. The woman disappeared back through the glass doors. It was the third time that week. Ever since her quiet acquisition of the commercial plaza, including the brokerage office once run by Dalton & Co., Amara had become something of a silent fixture in the neighborhood. She didn't hang banners or change signage. She didn't fire staff or paint the walls. She let the space speak for itself, but made sure it now spoke in a different tone. She had kept the front desk woman. Her name was Nia, and she had almost been let go during the PR meltdown that followed Clarice's dismissal. Amara had rehired her personally. They were going to replace me, Nia had said at the time, voice cracking. Said they needed a clean restart, like I was part of the mistake. You weren't, Amara replied. You were just never given the full picture. Now Nia greeted clients with the quiet confidence of someone who knew she belonged. In the evenings, Amara often stayed late in her office upstairs, the windows open to let in the city air, the noise of traffic, conversation, life. It grounded her. She didn't chase stillness. She built inside it. On this particular night, she stood at the large bay window of her home, barefoot, holding a glass of water. No wine, no celebration, just a simple acknowledgement that something had ended, and something else had begun. The house was quiet. The one they hadn't let her enter. Now it was hers. She had walked its halls, changed its locks, refinished the old wood floors not for style, but for permanence. The room that had once been the showcase library was now her grandmother's piano room, filled with the same sheet music she had once cleaned around in other people's homes. Jalen had stopped by earlier with a package. From a school, he said. One of the girls you sponsored. She's graduating. Inside the envelope was a photograph. A young black woman in a cap and gown, smiling so wide it looked like flight. Tucked behind the photo was a handwritten note. I didn't know I could own anything, until I saw you stand where they didn't want you to. Amara had folded the note and placed it in her drawer, not with the deeds or files, but in a box marked letters. She didn't keep trophies, just truths. The doorbell rang. She checked the time, almost 8 p.m. When she opened the door, a woman stood there holding a clipboard, light brown coat, nervous smile. Good evening. I know it's late. I'm with Eastbridge Equity. We're surveying high-value homeowners in the area to better understand buyer experiences in the current market. Amara said nothing. The woman hesitated. If I could just ask a few questions, you think I'm the assistant, don't you? Amara asked, gently. The woman froze. No offense, I didn't. Amara opened the door wider. Come in. I'll answer your questions. Inside, the woman sat on the velvet sofa, trying to recompose herself. She flipped through her notes. Can I ask, she said softly, what made you choose this house? Amara looked around, the gold light warming the walls, the echo of something old becoming new again. Someone once told me I didn't belong here, she said. So I stayed. The woman paused, wrote that down. And Amara watched her, not with judgment, but with understanding. Because she had been her once, the one knocking, explaining, shrinking, and now she was the reason no one else had to. Thank you for watching this story to the end. Sometimes you don't need to shout to change the system. You just need to walk into the room they didn't expect you in, and stay. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever faced bias or witnessed dignity speak louder than words, share your thoughts in the comments. Leave a like if this story meant something to you, and don't forget to subscribe. More powerful, truthful, and inspiring stories are coming soon.